I want to bring in our guest, still with me, criminal defense attorney David Bruno. David, first of all, I want your reaction to the interview that we just heard, but also, do you think any of the issues or drama, as we've called it, surrounding this verdict could derail the verdict?
Well, first, no. I mean, especially the verdict being a life sentence. It would be one thing if it were a death penalty sentence that went against the defendant and then some of the issues popped up. I think that there would be a lot more attention and legal challenge to the death sentence. But given the fact that it adheres to the defendant, I don't believe that it's worthy of unpacking it in the state side. I think the comments that I have about this particular interview and some of the others that I've heard is that oftentimes the public has a perception of a case. And it's not just this case, it's a lot of them that come out with adverse findings, not guilties, that are not supported by the majority of the public perception. And it's the same answer through and through every time I have. And that is, our jury system is not perfect, but it does have certain burdens that the government has to meet. And the rules of evidence provide for a guidance for the jurors as to what needs to be considered and how they need to be consider it. And the doctor here in this interview gives us a little breath into that deliberation, saying that it's the law that they had to follow. And if it were a majority, like probably the public perception is, that majority would have voted for the death penalty, well, it would have been death penalty. But the government was required to get a consensus jury on death. And there was 3 that voted for life. And for all those reasons, this verdict, this sentence comes out life. And that's what the Constitution says. That's what the Florida statutes say. And that's what it needs to be to follow the law.
Fair enough. And let me ask you this. Are you surprised Dr. Vinoy was a mental health advocate? Are you surprised that she was able to get on this jury?
Sure. For the state, I think hindsight's 20/20. And this is one to question. When you heard that interview, she was not only involved in mental health, but she was an advocate, she said. An advocate, meaning that there's things that need to be done. There's things that need to be changed. And this was the defense. This is exactly what the defendant's attorneys argued. So it would have been a red flag at the very least. Look, hindsight's 20/20, and we don't know, well, I don't at least, what the other prospective jurors were challenged for and where they used the peremptory challenges, but I would have second-guessed keeping this particular juror on the jury in light of her advocacy in the area of mental health.
No doubt. Let me bring back in Julia Janae. Julia, your experienced attorney, has gone through this whole process. Were you surprised that someone with this background made it on this jury?
Surprised in the sense of, if this had been a different kind of jury selection, sure. But this was one where thousands came into the courthouse. They had to deal with death penalty issues. They had to deal with people who weren't able to deal with autopsy photos or just such a tragic occurrence. So I think the state did what they could. They couldn't keep the issue of mental health off of this jury completely, because there are 2 other jurors who said that they have benefited from mental health counseling or mental health services. So we're talking about an issue that is near and dear to many people. And for this one to be a board of directors, she was a PhD for business, but also to be on the board of a mental health services advocacy group, I did find surprising, but not in the sense of this being a death penalty case and it being so difficult to find jurors who can be fair and impartial in the face of that.
And you mentioned she might have been a mom as well, so that might have overridden some of those other issues. All right, Julia Janae, thank you so much for that report. Fantastic interview. Truly appreciate that. David Bruno, you're going to be sticking around. Folks, you as well. When we come back, let's go.